He's Dan LeBatard. Dan LeBatard is highly questionable on ESPN2, Monday through Friday afternoons. He joins us now. Long night for you, Dan. Congratulations for the Miami Heat.
Oh, this is a pretty cool thing for the city, Dan, because we're always talking about in sports us against the world, and it's become an athletic cliche. But I think you'd agree there aren't a lot of teams in the history of our time covering sports that are more actually us against the world than this one.
But there's also a moment, and I brought this up, where Wade understood that this was now LeBron's team. That it was almost, and as you pointed out, little brother, big brother. Do you remember a moment where Wade almost said, okay, I get it now, go ahead, lead us?
Well, he said it out loud in the middle of the season, Dan, which was uncommon in its self-awareness because athletes tend to be pretty horrible self-evaluators. They have to be. It doesn't serve you to not have confidence. You have to have an outsized confidence. It's what helps get, in this sport, many of these guys out of the ghetto and over all these huge competitions in this ecosystem for dollars and to the mansions. And the fact that out loud in the middle of the season, Dwayne Wade volunteered, that guy over there is the best player in the world, and I need to help him. I need to figure out how to help him. Showed uncommon self-awareness. It was the same thing in 2006, Dan, when Dwayne Wade was winning in the finals. Pat Riley kept calling plays. He kept calling plays, and Dwayne Wade against Dallas was doing whatever the hell he wanted to. He was just doing whatever the hell he wanted to, and he was winning. And eventually he came into a timeout huddle, and Pat Riley just put down the clipboard and said, okay, Dwayne, how can I help you? Let me figure out how I can be on your side here and give you some assistance. And Dwayne figured that out. It's like, LeBron, all right, how can I help you? We're going to make this all about you, because one of the amazing stats from last season, Dan, is these guys in the postseason last year, both of them took exactly 373 shots because they were trying to share the ball. Exactly the same number of shots in the playoffs, and that's part of why you saw LeBron recede in the finals, because they were trying to share, and he had more difficulty with the Wade rule than Wade did. So now the sacrifices have been made by Wade and by Bosh, and LeBron gets to do what he wants.
What does this change?
I think it changes the entire narrative around LeBron James. I mean, I remember, Dan, when Allen Iverson merely got to the finals, we made him a changed person, even though he was still showing up to shoot-arounds drunk. We made him a changed person because he got to the finals. So we'll do it with LeBron. I mean, America is eating it today. The media is celebrating LeBron James because you've got to be a lunatic to condemn or make indictment anything we've seen over the last 6 weeks. So now the entire conversation changes, and I think he could have brought himself even more. I thought he was going to stop right on the court because of the uncommon pressure that he was under, and he may have, upon seeing Dwayne Wade, because he's so close to him. If the game had been closer last night and there hadn't been the drama sucked out of it the last 4 minutes as these guys were on the bench and had to wait for it to end. But I thought he really could have bought himself something with America last night. If on top of winning, which already buys you something, he has shown an even more human reaction by just cracking open, because I'm guessing it was just a huge relief.
Wait, Iverson showed up drunk to shoot-arounds?
Oh, yeah. He'd show up, he'd showed up, with liquor on his breath. That was pretty common knowledge.
From the night before?
Yes, uh-huh.
Oh, okay. Dan LeBatard joining us, Dan Patrick Show. Pat Riley, I know that it was almost a Jerry West type feel for him. He said he lived and died with every one of these losses here and was eating him up. But can we separate Riley from this to say, okay, let's give him credit for what he's done? What credit do you give to Pat Riley here?
Well, he built the thing, and he convinced these guys to play together. And he was I talked to him a little bit last night, and he was saying that he would feel sick. He would actually feel sick when these guys lost, because he promised them something. And he said, if these guys didn't win a championship, I would have had a hard time looking them in the eye because of what it is that I promised them. So, of course, the credit is going to get spread around plenty today, Dan. But what I find kind of amazing is that 7 games ago, Dan, we were talking and everybody was talking about Spoelstra should be fired,
Yeah.
Wade should be traded. This team is fatally flawed, and the blueprint and the experiment don't work. And how much of the blame should Pat Riley get for this?
Yeah, but Dan, that's part of the network that you work for. These guys, they put out a lot of stupid stuff that say that because you get a lot of people jumping into the finals who don't follow basketball or follow this team. And I said we're so game to game with this that, we sound silly with it. Instead of letting it play out, the best team usually wins. There were moments where, it seemed like it was not working, but it made me scream sometimes when I would hear some of this stuff. Durant's a better player than LeBron because of Game 1. I mean, I agree with you. Wade and LeBron don't work. Spoelstra won't be coaching this team. Now all of a sudden we're looking and saying, can they repeat as champions again?
I don't think that the ESPN is the only one guilty of this. I think there's a fandom that has polluted and contaminated a lot of sports analysis where it's emotional and there's an absence of nuance in it and perspective. There's a hyperventilation and a knee-jerk reaction with it, and the media should be held to a higher standard than this. But I believe, Dan, and I'm curious what your take on this is, because I believe that the dislike of this team became so loud and poisonous that, of course, because media members are human and objectivity is an illusion, it's something we aspire to, but it's a lie, that people were rooting against this team. And so it just made the coverage around this thing totally insane, where Russell Westbrook has an uneven game where he plays recklessly, as he always plays, and because the media is mad that Russell Westbrook gets for them the desired result of crushing the Heat, all of a sudden he is the worst point guard any of us have ever seen. And the analysis of Russell Westbrook is, I've never seen a point guard this bad. When he's playing in a game against Mario Chalmers, who scored 2 points in the same game, who scored 5 points over 2 games, and we're just savaging him. And I just think we just got a lot of fanboy in the media coverage. It was just way, way too emotional. It didn't feel objective at all. And I understand all we could do is aspire to objectivity, but there is so little objectivity around this team for 2 years.
Yeah, but we looked at what's the story that sells. The story that sells is either you love LeBron or you don't. And I go back to the mothership. I mean, look at the stories that you're covering. That's why they put him out there. And he did a lot of it. It was self-imposed. But also you put him out there to dislike him. You put, Wade out there and Bosch out there to dislike them. There was nothing that presented something that said, embrace this team with how good they are, or working together, or LeBron's transformation. There was never anything like that. It became, we're going to put it out there, and you understand, we understand that you don't like them. We're going to continue to put them out there and do features on them.
But what's weird to me about that, I mean, I understand they're famous and, their Q rating's really high and people want to talk about this team and people want to read about this team. But what I don't get is, if I ask you right now, or I ask your audience right now, in the last 2 years, go ahead right now, take inventory of it. Give me the real controversies that you remember with this team. They're all bogus, man. This team's not actually unlikable. I mean, what's unlikable about this team? Something that happened 2 years ago, the way they came out 2 years ago, okay? We can start there. There was an arrogance there, and that's where it started, and it had not been earned. But since then, the controversies are what? This is not – these guys don't misbehave. What do they do? Somebody explain it to me, because over the last 2 years, I mean, this team has not been unlikable. I would think you tell me, Dan, you tell me, okay, what do you think your reaction would have been last night if you had won the title after what LeBron James has endured the last 2 years? Because I'm telling you what my reaction is. I'm going to have a hard time not putting that ring on my middle finger.
No, that's what I don't want to see that from him. I want him to understand that I did something, I paid for it, now I won this. I hope that I get the respect that I deserve. I don't want him to be out there in front and doing that again.
Nobody does.
No, but
Nobody
I think that but that's what I would want him to do. I understood it. He did it. What he did in Cleveland to me was remarkable. He took the opportunity to go play in Miami. And for somebody, I think it's great that he admitted he was flawed, that he couldn't win in Cleveland. He was willing to admit, I need help to do this. He did it. He got humbled. The decision, the press conference. Now you see what happened with him. I wanted him to win this championship because I think he's just too good for people to look at and say he never won a championship. I never want that to happen. Didn't want it to happen to Marino. And I look at LeBron James, and I'm happy for him. And I hope there is a maturation process that's still in order here as he continues to move on. I like him. I think there are times when he got full of himself. He paid the price. Now he wins a championship.
I ask you, though, how many people in your audience, what do you think? I think it would have been pretty human to be defiant in that moment. Yes. Of course, nobody wants to see that. In fact, if he had done that, he would have undone some of what he did with winning. If he had been defiant in that moment of joy, of being rewarded, he would have undone some of the image soothing that winning does for any athlete. So I'm glad that he didn't do that, and it wouldn't really be in his character to do much of that. But I'm just saying that if you were going to not like somebody, that's the reason that you would not like them, because they would do things like that. Yet doing something like that would have been pretty human to do in that spot, and none of the Heat players did it. There wasn't a lot of chest pounding in that locker room last night about, go bleep yourself, America. We did it. It was more just blissful joy.
Your voice is sounding like Tim Kirchin's. You need it to rest a little bit, Dan.
Really? I'm squeaking. I'm squeaking.
Yeah. Hey, tell your dad we said hello, and thanks for joining us, and congrats to the Heat.
All right. Thanks, brother.
All right, buddy. That's Dan Batard. At least didn't call me Skip Bayless this time around. Now, he will text me. He texts me every time he's on. You're Skip Bayless. That's one of the meanest things you've ever said.